Hey guys, welcome to the podcast Day Chats, where I am your host, Daisy Michelle. And for today's episode, I have a very special guest. I have here with me Miss Sarah Elizabeth.
Hey guys, so excited to be part of this podcast. This is my first time ever doing a podcast, so here we go.
I'm so excited to have you here. She actually came down from the Bay Area, so I'm super excited to have you here. We're going to be talking about a lot of good stuff that I know. I know a lot of you can relate. So let me just give you a little backstory of how we met, just so you get some context. But I won't go too much into it because I know people don't really care about those kind of details and I don't want to bore you.
Get to the good stuff.
So Sarah and I met our first year of college. We were roommates and
they were roommates.
And yes, we were roommates in college and quickly became one of my best friends. And here we are 5 years later, still holding it down. And I know I learned a lot of things from her. Yes. And I'm super excited to have her here on the podcast today because she came here specifically because she just needed a break. And who doesn't need a break when they're going through a toxic breakup? So let's just get right into it. This whole episode is going to be about toxic relationships, red flags, and dumb bitch-itis, because I know damn well we can all relate to being a dumb bitch every now and then. And of course,
I sure can.
Falling into toxic relationships and ignoring every single red flag. So Sarah, I'm going to go ahead and let you take the lead and talk a little bit about what your experience has been with all three, and we'll just divulge and go in there.
Okay, yeah. Where do I start? So I thought about this, and I feel like before I talk about absolutely anything, I want to put a disclaimer out there that whenever we talk about these kinds of things, it's not meant to, at least for me personally, and I assume you feel the same, I am not doing this with the intention to villainize anyone and with the intention of victimizing myself.
Yeah.
I think that you can take everything you hear and kind of form like your own opinion about it, but that's not the intention. I think that the intention of doing this is more through self-empowerment and self-reflection.
Yes. I know a lot of us can relate going through or having gone through a toxic relationship or ignoring red flags. And just with any other topic, a lot of things people don't like to talk about because they don't want to seem like they were the dumb ones, or they don't want to seem like they're vulnerable. So this is just our way to just talk about our own experiences and really just let loose and, I don't know, psychoanalyze ourselves. Yeah. Kind of like therapy, but unprofessional.
Exactly. I think everyone needs to psychoanalyze themselves.
Exactly. And if you don't feel ready to do it yourself, you're more than welcome to listen to us psychoanalyze ourselves and make your own opinions on that.
Yeah. So. They're gonna hear me be like, damn, that bitch literally got diagnosed with dumb bitch-itis.
I know. Self-proclaimed.
Right.
Okay, so yes, Sarah, why don't you tell us why you're even here in Southern California and what you've been going through?
Basically, I just got out of an 8-month we could say relationship, but Daisy and I talked about this earlier, and I feel like it's probably better to call it an entanglement.
Yes. Thank you, Miss Smith, because we love that word.
Right. So essentially, I started working with this person around 8 months ago. Let's call him Cheese Puff.
I was going to go with like Jake or something, but Cheese Puff works well.
I like Cheese Puff.
Okay.
So I met Cheese Puff at work, actually. You know, I had just moved back to where I'm from, Northern California, and I really did not have any friends there. I was sad because I was moving back home, and it's not like it's something that I necessarily wanted to do. It was more out of a necessity to save money and feeling kind of lost in my life and feeling like it was kind of just the most viable, logical option. So I moved back home, I start work, don't really have any friends. And here's this guy that I initially thought was cute, but actually he didn't even like me when he first met me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he didn't like me because I told him that I initially wanted to work at another store, but I couldn't go to that store. So I'm just working at the store that I was at now.
Yeah.
And he was
kind of like a backup plan.
Yeah, he was kind of like, wow, that's sort of stuck up. But then I don't know what happened. He ended up liking me. So I thought that he was cute, but I definitely wasn't. It always starts off, I wasn't as into him as he was to me in the beginning. Eventually, he asked me out on a date, and I was kind of like, well, he's cute, and I'm also lonely. I don't have any friends, so I'll go. First date, like, we have this fabulous date. And it's funny because looking back, I thought he's kind of moving fast in the sense of, like, wanting to hold my hand, and he would constantly be, complimenting me, and it felt really fast, but I also kind of didn't mind it in a sense. Like, it was a red flag, but I didn't care that it was a red flag because I was enjoying it.
Yeah, like he was giving you that attention, whether it was a wanted attention or not. It was the attention that you were lacking from not having just platonic attention from friends, and maybe perhaps a romantic one that you haven't had in a while.
I think so. But I mean, and I genuinely did feel some sort of connection to him as well. So yeah, so we have this like wonderful date. Things are kind of moving fast. We go on a couple more dates, and he like spends the night at my house, and things are going good. They're moving really fast.
Yeah. And when you say fast, how fast are we talking? Are we talking like within the day that you met him to a month later he was spending the night at your house? Or like what timeline are we working with
so
here?
We went on that date, right?
Yeah.
That I said, our first date. A week later, he spent the night at my house.
Okay.
Or maybe it was 2 weeks later.
Was it like a normal spend the night or a little racy?
It was racy. It was racy for sure.
Okay.
Yes. Also, it was either that week or the next week because he slept over at my house again the next week. And one of those times, I remember us walking downtown and we went out to ice cream. This was pre-COVID days, right before COVID. And, we were talking, we're like, wow, this is like really strong connection, really fast. And I was telling him how I had plans in 6 months from then, around 6 months, to go and travel. And I really wanted to travel on my own and by myself.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I kind of feel like I want to travel with you.
Oh my God. Here he is inviting himself to this solo trip.
And I even said to him, like, that seems pretty fast. So it was just this whole thing. But we still continued talking. And then somehow at that first, after a week or couple weeks, he was like, I feel like this is moving fast and I'm not ready to like be in anything serious. And I was like, okay, well, I really like you. I felt like you kind of led me on and like I want to continue dating you. I don't know what I want out of it, but I was enjoying dating you, but I don't want to date other people. He's like, okay, yeah, I kind of feel that. So then after like a couple of days, we're both like, okay, let's see how it goes. I don't know if it was a month went by, maybe not even. And we were continuously dating and getting closer to each other. And then the same thing happened again where he's like, I just don't know. I still feel like I want to date around, like I can't commit.
My God.
But I was like, but at the same time, I was kind of like, I also don't really know what I want. We both kind of just kept this thing going for about another month, but we were starting to develop more feelings for each other, and he was saying romantic things to me, being nice to me, spending time together. This is like right when COVID hit, I believe. So things were good, yeah. And then I think this was like the day after his birthday. I went over there and brought him dinner. Mm-hmm. And that night, somehow the conversation got on to where is this going? What are we sort of thing? And I told him, I still am not like completely sure, but I know that I like you and I want to keep dating you and like I have feelings for you. And he's like, yeah, I have feelings for you too. But I just don't know if I feel the same like I did before.
Mm-hmm. And at that point, were you ready to say, we don't have to be official, but I want to be exclusive where I only want to date you and vice versa?
Yeah, and it was pretty clear at this time too, because like I said, we had gotten close so fast. Like we were seeing each other all the time, texting each other, stuff like that. And it was like pretty clear.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you like seriously? And he was like, yeah, like I still feel like I can't commit And it was this whole thing. And then I was like, okay, well, that really hurts because I thought you liked me. He's like, I do, but I still feel attraction to other women and that I still want to like talk to them and flirt with them.
So that's red flag number 2.
This was like the start of this whole thing. And I was like, well, is it attraction? Is in like you want to like develop a relationship with them? But it gets worse. And here we are, we were having like amazing sex and like that was all good, at least in my mind. And, you know, he would always like compliment me. And so then we got in this big fight. And then I think I like called him on my way home from his house after we fought. And he said stuff like, you're going to think I'm such an asshole, but I'm just not as attracted to you as I thought that I was. And I was like, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, you compliment, like, what is it about me that you're not attracted to? And he's like, I don't know, like, your body. And I was like, what? I was like, you compliment my body all the time and you, like, have sex with me, so I don't understand. And he was like, well, it's not like how I used to be. Like, sometimes I feel like I want someone that's more like petite, maybe.
Keep in mind, you guys, Sarah is pretty petite herself. Like, her frame. Yeah. She's definitely voluminous in certain parts. But overall, her frame is very petite.
I know. And he's like, well, maybe someone that's like, I think he meant like shorter, like someone who's shorter. And he's like, you know, he's like, I'm still interested. Like, I see people and I'm like, oh, wow, it's a really beautiful person. Like, he's like, maybe I want to try dating a Latina girl or something. And I was just like, okay, well, you're shallow. Don't want him. I was like, okay, you realize like that's kind of shallow, no? And he was like, see, everyone thinks I'm an asshole when I say things like that. I'm like, okay, like, are you serious right now? Like, that's so hurtful. I can't believe, you know, like, I just felt so rejected and I was so confused because here you are, like, making me feel good and then all of a sudden being like, I'm not as attracted to you and I don't like your body and stuff like that.
I feel like that would 100% take a big blow in my self-esteem.
Yeah, he was like,
even if I didn't want it to, I don't know how I would come back from that. I think I would just pretend like I'm okay.
I think that even though it got resolved, and I'll get to that, it still, I think, changed the relationship forever. Like, he was like, you're just not my ideal body type. So I was like, you really care about that? Like, first of all, I was like, that sucks that you care about it. And also, I feel so hurt that, like, I'm not your ideal body type. Because, like, here I am, like, I think I have a pretty nice body. And so I was like, am I wrong?
Yeah, no, definitely not. So it's definitely him. I guess there's not much wrong with having a specific type of person that you like to date.
But he liked me already.
Exactly. Like, he already started dating you and was attracted to you. So for him to turn around and say, oh, just kidding, you're not my type. Right. Like, your body's not it. It's like...
So then I hung up on him. Like, I went home and just, like, cried. And then I think he called me that night and was, like, trying to say, like, I'm so sorry. Like, I was only saying what I said out of fear. And I didn't mean it. Like, I want to be with you. Blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, I just, like, don't want to talk to you. Like, I'm so hurt. And then I think later that day we talked on the phone and he was like, yeah, I'm ready to be your boyfriend. But then the next day we talked on the phone and was like, and then he was like, I don't know. I was like, are you already, like, changing your mind? And he was like, I don't know. He's like, I like you, but I still just don't know. So I was like, what the fuck?
When you're saying it out loud now and when you think back now, how many red flags are you picking up?
So many. But there's something about when you have, like, a really strong connection to someone and, like, you develop a really strong connection to someone, you just, like, don't want to believe things. And you're like, well, this connection that I have is stronger than, like, what's going on. And it also just, like, didn't make sense to me because he was also telling me these other things about how much he liked me and, like, was complimenting me and wanting to, like, be around me and stuff like that.
Yeah. He was, like, filling your head with all these, like, rainbows and butterflies to also not only keep you around, but make up for the fact that he knew that he hurt you.
Yeah, exactly. So then I think from there, I don't know, like, we still kept talking, though. Like, I think we still decided, like, we're still going to talk and, you know, see where it goes. Just, like, you know.
Yeah, so you guys were done at that point, but kind civil of, but then, and still being friends. But your romantic relationship was done.
Maybe. But then he told me that he loved me at that same time. That's when he started saying, I love you.
When you guys were technically broken up and off.
Yes.
From this on and off roller coaster.
Yes, that time where we were, like, that was legit when I was like, so are we boyfriend and girlfriend now?
Yeah.
He was like, yeah. And then the next day he was like, I don't know, actually. But he told me he
What
loved
the
me.
heck?
Yeah. He's like, I think I'm in love with you, blah. And then the next couple months after that, I think it was still just a very much like on and off thing. But then he was saying, I love you. And then he would go days like leaving chocolate and roses in my locker and like doing all these extremely sweet things and saying all these extremely sweet things, to then being like, oh, I still kind of feel like I want to date around. And
It's
it was
almost like a yo-yo.
it was literally like a yo-yo.
Every time he had you up, he did all these things to keep you, but then he would let it go and just let it all go.
And then I always kept noticing a pattern of like, okay, I don't understand when things start to get really good and we start to get really close. Like I would sleep over at his house every weekend and he would say stuff about like possibly introducing me to his mom. And we kept getting really close, and then he would do that thing and then come back and be like, no, I realized I made a mistake. Each time he'd be like, I made a huge mistake. I'm just fearful. And I know that you're the one that I want.
How many times do you think this happened where he would be all into you and then the next day or a couple weeks later, he would just be totally out of it and didn't want to be with you for X, Y, and Z?
6.
Like 6 times?
6 times in 8 months.
Yeah. And each time you would go back to him.
Mm-hmm. But it would take a lot of begging on his side.
Yeah.
And he would say anything and everything to get me to believe him. And here I was
he would like bring you the moon each and every time.
Oh, yeah. And here I was also lonely and not having any other friends. And it's COVID. So I'm not going to go out and date.
Yeah.
And I can't go out to bars. I can't go do anything. And also, I saw him at work. So this kept happening. And then there was one time where it happened because he was like, here he was, like, ready to commit. And then this, like, girl came through his line. And he found out, apparently, that she was into him. Mm-hmm. When I say came through his line, we're cashiers at a store. Yeah. So she went through his line. And found out that she was some girl who was in an open relationship and he was into her. She was into him. Mm-hmm. And he told me about it and I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, and this is a point where he was like, he had told me before, like, I'm ready to commit to you. Like, I don't want to date other girls. I want you. I was like, well, are you interested? And he's like, well, yeah, like, kind of. And then that's when I was like, I can't do that.
I mean, anybody in their right mind who wants a monogamous relationship would be like, okay, this is my exit. Yeah. I gotta go. Like, if that's what you want, good for you. Like, nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But that's not for me. So clearly we want different things.
Yes. So then we broke up, and then like a month later he came back again and was like, no, I want you. Like, I didn't even message that girl. You're the one I want. I never initially wanted to break up. And each and every time, this is what he would tell me. Each and every time he was like, well, I think that it could work out if I just feel like I could tell you about each time that I feel like I want to be with another girl and we can talk about it and you can come from a place of understanding. Like,
I feel like that's so manipulative.
Yeah, it was.
Like, it's like, hey, let me tell you every single time that I would rather fuck someone else or that I would much rather be with someone else than you. Mm-hmm. But you have to be okay with it. And it's your job to try to convince me to stay with you.
That's what it was.
Instead of go with this person.
Mm-hmm. That's what it was, exactly. And I was just like, well, am I in the wrong? I was like, could I make it work by just like, if he tells me and then maybe after he tells me he doesn't want to anymore, and that was like going through my head. So then that happened, and then the other time it took a while, and then he eventually like reeled me back in and things like, and it was weird because each time that this happened we would break up, and then after we broke up and got back together, we would become closer each time. Like,
because it's almost like a bond that you guys go through. Like, you both, in a way, he almost made you feel like you had some part in the hurt that he caused you.
Yes.
So now it was an experience that you both shared together. So there's only, supposedly, quote unquote, there's only going up from there. Yeah. But clearly it was really just going downhill from there.
And he kind of tried to make me feel like, oh, I'm not confident in myself enough, or I don't love myself enough. And if I do that, then he'll want to be with me more and won't be as attracted to other girls, which is like, that's bullshit, because I do love myself and I am confident in myself. And I've come like such a long way to be that way. Like, I really have done a complete like 360 in that sense.
180.
180. And so then when I hear someone say that, I'm just like, oh shit, like maybe I'm not as confident as I thought I was. Yeah. And if I'm just more confident, then this person won't be doing this to me and it's my fault. but it's not my fault.
It's always like we convince ourselves that it's our fault, that we're playing into it. Even at the moment that we realize that we are exhibiting dumb bitchitis and, you know, falling for these things, there's still a way, even though we can maybe recognize that they're at fault, somehow we play it to where it's our fault. We are falling into it. We are responsible for their actions. And I don't know about you. Well, I do know about you, but I can also relate to where I don't know so much now, but I was always attracted to the people that needed to be fixed. I always wanted to be like the person to help them figure things out. I got some sort of pleasure in a way of being that stability for them. And I don't know how I was able to do that when that was, I guess, the stability that I was looking for that should have been reciprocated, but it wasn't.
Yeah. No, I totally understand that.
But completely. I know you're the same way as well.
Completely, yeah. And even at times where I needed to be fixing myself.
Yes. It's almost like we take on another project rather than, and by project I mean man, we take on another project and try to fix that project instead of working on our own.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we would break up and like get closer after each time, which made me think that we were getting closer and closer to being in like a better relationship. And at this point we were like best friends, and he would tell me like, you're my best friend, I love you, you know, I see a future with you, all this stuff. So finally we go out on this date for a walk on the beach, and like it's a long drive, and the whole time like I was feeling off, and I think that was because I could tell that like he wasn't being himself, like affectionate or like romantic towards me. And so we go on this date and he's just like not romantic towards me at all, and I'm like, why are you not like showing me any affection or like romance? And he was like, I'm sorry, like I'm just not, I just like don't want to right now. He's like, I just don't feel like it. And then in the car I was just like really sad on the way home, and he's like, well, you know, I'm still like not sure. But then as he's saying that, he's like touching my thigh, like holding on to my thigh and looking at me all lovingly, but at the same time being like, I'm sorry, like, you know, I'm not completely sure, but it's like, here you are acting like my boyfriend. And then like, what? Anyways. And then a couple of days later, the next couple of days, he was like super distant towards me. And then when we were working together, and I was like so upset because he was being so distant. And then he literally yelled at me in front of coworkers.
What the heck?
And we were like, because I was trying to talk to him before I was leaving. I was like, oh, what is going on? And he was like, just go home.
Yeah. And this was like, at work.
That's fucking embarrassing. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure coworkers saw it. And I was like, that is so embarrassing. When I told him that, he like didn't apologize. And he was like, well, you made me angry. And I think I ended up apologizing for it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was like, sorry, I know I shouldn't be talking about this stuff at work. Which like, yeah, you shouldn't. But also that does not give him any right to yell at me.
Exactly. That does not justify him yelling at you like that in public.
Yeah, so then the night after that, I think, I was like, do you want to talk on the phone tonight? And he was like, okay, I guess. So we talk on the phone, and like we're just kind of having a conversation. He's like, so I've been thinking, and you know, he's like, I still want to be here for you. I still want to be a shoulder for you to cry on, but like I can't be here for you like in that way that you want me to. So I was like, are you serious? Like after all the times you said that you were ready to commit to me and like begged me to get back to you again? And he was like, yeah, I don't want to be with you.
Oh my gosh.
And he was like, when we went on that date, I just didn't feel the spark that I needed.
Yeah. And
I was just like, seriously? And he was like, yeah.
Was that the breaking point?
No, because I went back to him again once after that.
Oh my God.
And he was, so then a month or two went by, and like I legit was like, okay, I'm not talking to him. I was done. I was moving on, and finally I was becoming happy, and I felt like I was becoming more of myself again that I had lost during that time. I was on Tinder talking to people. I was enjoying Tinder. Work, and then I had heard that he started dating some girl that like came through his line. He asked for her number like a week after we broke up, maybe like 2 weeks, not even. And I was like, are you kidding me? And everyone at work was like, oh yeah, that's just the way that Cheese Puff is.
Yeah. So everybody warned you at work.
Oh yeah, I didn't even include that. There were a bunch of people warning me at work the first time.
Yeah.
So that happened, and then talking to me more and more, and he was saying all these things like, oh, I feel such a deep connection to you. Like, I'm so glad that we're talking again. And he was like saying to my coworkers, like, oh, I made such a big mistake. Like he would always say, I made such a big mistake. And I'd pass by and he'd be like, my heart, and like be all dramatic. And at first I was like, ew, like, I'm done with you. Like, I'm not, I
Yeah.
don't feel anything for you anymore. And he was texting me, like, I'm not going to give up on you. And then he was like, that was a short-term relationship with that girl. What I want with you is a long-term relationship. And basically
Yeah.
this went on, him like trying to beg me and get back with me for like a month. Until
Straight.
finally, like, I spent time with him and I was like, okay, he actually does seem like he's learned a lot and
Yeah,
like
and, like, you
wants to
thought he'd
change. And
change.
I was like, yeah, you definitely, like, he seemed like he had started to do the work to become a better person and like look inward, and I definitely saw it change.
Yeah, so you took him back.
Yeah, so then we got back together, and this last time we were like closer than ever, and we were making plans to eventually move in together. And we were talking about it.
How long was it really good for?
I want to say like a month or over a month.
Yeah.
So then I had my birthday, and my birthday was great. We had a good time. Basically, like, I found out from a friend that he was on Tinder behind my back.
Yikes.
And when I tried to talk to him about it, he made me feel bad about it for like
course.
getting mad at him for being on Tinder.
Yeah, and not only that,
then-
but didn't he try to like say, well, you would only find out if I'm on Tinder if you're on Tinder.
Yes,
so why are you on
yes,
Tinder?
Exactly. And then he was like, well, I got it at the time because I felt like maybe I wasn't sure, but then I realized I wasn't. I already deleted the Tinder, and I was like, we are done.
Yeah.
So long story short, yeah, we are completely done now. I had to block him on everything. And
Good.
because we worked together, I wanted to transfer stores, but I ultimately couldn't/didn't. And now my boss is involved, and if he talks to me, he could be fired.
So if there's anything that you've learned now that you've said your whole story out loud, what are some things that you picked up on, some red flags, some things that you wish you could have told yourself, like in your past self, if you were standing right in front of you?
What I've learned is that sometimes people in relationships are like drugs, and that's what makes them toxic.
Yes.
And this person clearly was this person in this relationship clearly was an addictive drug to me,
Yes.
because even though drugs are bad, okay, drugs are bad, you know that they are bad, but there's something about them that you're addicted to. And here this drug is being presented to me at my work nearly every day,
Yes.
trying to make me feel good, trying to entice me
was
back
always
in.
there.
Entice me back in. And so I'm just like a little rat that's like,
Yeah.
okay, like, I'm gonna do it. And it's almost like an inexplainable thing. And I think that I felt like such a deep connection to this person that I was like, okay, well, there's the side of them that acts like they're so in love with me, and they tell me that they want to marry me and I'm their wife and we're planning on moving in together and all this stuff. And, you know,
He's
so I'm
a
like,
master
okay.
manipulator.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, well then that's the true him. All this bad stuff isn't the true him.
Yeah.
And that's not it. Like, no matter, everything about you is the true you.
Exactly. So when someone shows you these sides of them, don't be so quick to dismiss them and say, it was just a bad night. It was just a one-time thing. You know, they're really stressed. They're really tired. They have all these things going on. Or maybe he doesn't know how to commit. Let me I can change that.
Exactly.
Don't put yourself in that position where you think you can change it. I know for a fact we can all relate to that story where we think we can change someone, especially when they tell you things like what Cheese Puff said, how he would never actually say, I'm not into you. He would rather just say, I am into you, but I'm not ready. And it's like not closing the door 100%. It's like leaving that crack open so you still feel like, okay, I can weasel my way in there.
Right.
You know?
But remember that last time before this last time where he was like, I don't want to be with you after that date. And he's like, I didn't feel a spark with you.
Yeah.
I think that's why that one time I was like, okay, I'm done then. Like,
Yeah.
that's why I was able to move on. And like,
Because
I
he
was
shut
able
the
to go,
door.
yeah, because he shut the door. But then he came right back
Yeah.
stronger than ever.
Because he had the key.
Stronger than ever. So that's why I can't let him back in.
Yeah. So I'm sure, like I said, we can all relate to having been in a relationship that was toxic and having a toxic partner. But now let's talk a little bit about those relationships that bring out the toxic side in you. And yes, I am going to call myself out, and I will make this a short story, very sweet, and we'll get into...
Before you go into yours, I just want to say also that, like, I just talked about the toxic relationship I've been, but I have also been the toxic one. That's it. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, definitely. And we're not trying to say that like she hasn't or I've never, you know, it's just we need to get both sides of these stories. And it's only fair for me to call myself out in my most toxic relationship. So let's do this. So we'll call this person Glasses, which is funny because, again, a lot of the guys I've dated wear glasses. So if you think this is you, you're probably wrong. Okay, so this relationship, this was about 2016, 2017, when I was in a relationship with this person. And we had a pretty great relationship and we moved pretty fast. After the first day that we met, we were officially dating probably like 3 months after that. After we met, you know, he asked me to be his girlfriend. He had already met my parents at that point and things were relatively well. There were some things that I didn't really like about him from the beginning.
I remember.
For starters, like the first night I met him, I was not attracted to him at all. I met him at a party, so there was a lot of alcohol there and I required a lot of it to find him attractive.
I remember that.
So that's how our relationship started. But for some reason, I was still, you know, wanting to talk to him. And so we did, and we ended up dating. So I want to say it was probably sometime towards the end of our relationship where we had the rockiest and most tumultuous times. During that time, I was working full time. I was commuting to school and home. I was in a sorority. So a lot of my free time was either at work, at school, like studying, or doing my sorority commitments. And so I would only see him on the weekends because he lived in a different city than I did, probably like almost an hour away from where I live. So we could only see each other on the weekend. And I'm not saying that that was an excuse for me being the way I was, but it kind of just gives some context of what my life was going like. At that point in time, I had always struggled with emotions and dealing with my own emotions, talking about emotions. I was always the type of person that if I ever felt something other than like good things, I would just suppress them. I wouldn't talk about it because in my mind, if you don't talk about it, then you're good, you know, out of sight, out of mind. But that eventually ended up blowing up. As we got further along into our relationship, I noticed there were some things that I didn't like about him. That, for instance, he was a big mama's boy. He couldn't do anything without consulting his mom, without asking his mom for permission. Keep in mind, I was 19 at the time, and he was like 21, 22. So like he was older than you. Yeah, he was older than me. And you would think that at that age, he would have been doing stuff to like get his life together. No, I was the one that was doing everything for him. I would help him with his homework. He was in community college and I would help him like with his English assignments. He worked at a place where in order for him to get a job, he had to wake up super early to like reserve that job. So I would wake up at 4 a.m. to try to get him jobs. And sometimes I would get him jobs that I guess were in not the best areas that he was too scared to work in. And he would like literally get mad at me for doing that. And I'm like, bro, you are broke.
What? You're also helping him by doing his job for him.
While he was in bed sleeping. Jesus. I would literally wake up. So these were all just things that were like accumulating that I was slowly starting to resent from him. Being a mama's boy, not taking accountability for his actions or not taking responsibility for his own life. And on top of those things of my own troubles, I was going through a time where I was very insecure with myself, appearance-wise, my work ethic. I was doing really bad in school. I was doing pretty bad in my work at my job. And I'm the type of person that I'm a very hardworking person. I take a lot of pride in my work. So when I wasn't excelling in my job, that was just a big blow to me, you know, because that's a big part of my identity, a big part of who I am.
That is.
So I didn't really know how to handle that. And unfortunately, that meant that I took it out on the person that I was the closest to, which was my boyfriend at the time, Glasses. So the one moment that sticks out to me the most is that we had been having these issues about jealousy. He had met this girl, we'll call her Robin, and he met Robin. I don't remember where, but Robin was dating his friend. And so Robin and Glasses became good friends. And so they would hang out a lot in groups. And, you know, I would see how he would talk about her and like how he would act with her. And maybe it was just my own insecurities acting up, but something about that just always felt off. I always felt like he had like some kind of feeling for her. He would always talk about how amazing she is and how funny she is and how great she is. And I'm like, okay, like I get you're trying to like hype her up, but
it's a
like,
girl and I'm your girlfriend.
Exactly. Like maybe I'm just insecure. I don't know.
No, I think that like most women in relationships with men would feel that way.
Yeah, exactly. Especially because I don't think I've ever heard him talk about me that way. Mm-hmm. So I was like, weird. Okay. So there was a lot of jealousy between us, and I would actually tell him, hey, like I don't feel appreciated by you. I don't feel like you're giving me my place. I feel like you're putting me last compared to all these people. And hey, I'm not asking for him to put me like number one. I'm not his wife, but I am asking for him to like give me a special place.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not his friend. I'm not like anyone random. I was his girlfriend. And at that point, we had been together almost a year. Mm-hmm. And so he was giving me no reassurance. And something I know now is that my biggest love language is words of affirmation. Mm-hmm. And I was always asking for that. And he was not giving it to me. He was saying that I was asking for it too much, and that it was a big issue for him, that I was too needy, too insecure.
So he was getting mad at you for expressing your needs.
Yes.
And him not being able to meet them.
Exactly. Like he would not even like get mad at me. And this is what would piss me off, is that I would say something like, hey, you know what? Like, I just don't feel like you're giving me enough attention, or you're telling me enough, you know, X, Y, and Z. And he would literally say, well, now I'm sad because I'm the worst boyfriend in the world.
Oh my God.
And I don't know how to treat you. And you're probably going to be better off with someone else. And then here I am now trying to console him, trying to tell him how amazing of a boyfriend he is. When all I wanted was for him to every once in a while just say, hey, you know, I really appreciate you. I really do love everything you do for me. And
I have to take my own advice when I say this, but if anyone ever says you deserve better, then you do.
Exactly. And so that was the biggest thing for me, is that it was such a big deal for him to just tell me what I wanted to hear. And so all of this just bottled up, and it got to the point where I could no longer handle my emotions. And I ended up going to therapy for it. It was the first time I ever went to therapy, and I really had a great experience. Love her. It was my college therapist on campus, and she would teach me how to talk about my emotions and talk about, you know, how I was feeling with him. And so I started journaling, and I'm going to read a very small thing. Okay, so this thing that I'm going to start reading is something that I wrote in March 28, 2017. This was like close to when we were about to break up. I never felt comfortable telling him about how my day was going, because during this time I was going through a really hard time in my own personal mental health journey. And I didn't feel like I could go to him because, again, everything would go back to him saying, well, I'm not good enough for you. I'm not doing enough for you, rather than him just listening to what I'm saying. And it would piss me off so much, to the point where I would bottle all that resentment and I would lash out on him all the time. I would start fights for the dumbest things. But I wrote, I feel like I can't go to you about my bad days or my insecurities, because then I'm just, quote, overreacting, and I'm not, quote, being myself. I'm not blaming stuff on you, but I just want to be honest, and this is how I currently feel about everything. I'm not saying I want to leave you, but I'm saying I'd like to feel like you support me and you choose me. I don't want to feel like I have to prove myself to you to win a competition. I shouldn't have to feel like there's a competition in the first place. Mm-hmm. This was in relation to Robin, because again, I felt like I was constantly competing against her. And the one moment that I think was a breaking point for him is we were having all these issues. We had had a pretty decent day. I was at his house and he got a text message from a girl, and I asked him who it was. He told me it was this girl from high school, and he played it off like it wasn't a big deal. But me, being the jealous, insecure person I did something I never thought I would do, and it's the only time I did it, and I'm not proud of it. But I texted that girl back and I said, why are you texting my boyfriend? This is his girlfriend. Like, what do you want? And she literally responded saying, what the fuck? After that, Glasses was so mad at me. He was so disappointed in me. And I think he truly like snapped out of it and was just like, I don't want to be with her anymore, because he turned to me and he just looked defeated. He looked like
the look on his face.
Yeah, like he couldn't believe that someone actually did that. And to top it off, he was like, she's lesbian and in a relationship. And showed me her Facebook page, because I don't know if I didn't believe him or what, but there she was with her girlfriend, happy as ever. And I guess they had gone to high school together, and she just wanted to see, I guess she got a new number, wanted to say what's up, give him his new number. And I was just like, oh my God. And there I was trying to fix it, trying to downplay it. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, what did I do? I'll just say like, oh my God, I'm just kidding. Haha. Like, sorry, thought you were someone else. And she literally was like, bye. I don't know if I ruined a friendship there. Wow. But he was very upset, and it just went downhill after that. And there was other instances where I would always blow up on him. I would get mad at him. Like, before his birthday, we got into like big fights and we almost broke up, and ended up being that he broke up with me the night before my birthday. So my birthday is April 25th. He broke up with me the night of April 24th, because over the weekend he had spent the night at my house, and on Sunday he took me to go get my nails done. And on our way back from my nail tech's house, we went to the mall. It's about a 40 minute drive to the mall from her house. And when we got to the mall in the car, he got a boner. And I jokingly said, oh, you're thinking about my nail tech and you got a boner. And I don't know if I'm just psycho and crazy, but I literally believed my own joke, and I got so mad and I got so hurt. And he's like, no, like, I don't know why I got one, but it's not that. He tried to kiss me, and I literally shut the door on him and in the car. And and then we went to a shoe store, and he was like, here, let me help you. And he bent down to like take off my shoes and put the shoes on for me, like that I wanted to try on. And I moved my foot. Oh my God. I think at that point he was just like, this is a crazy ass girl who literally has no remorse for what she does and is so toxic, and I'm done.
Oh, we can get into that after you finish your story.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's basically it. So those are just some of the bigger things that I remember that I was like very toxic about. Am I proud of that? Realistically, no. But I mean, it does make a good story to tell.
Okay. So,
but yeah, he ended up breaking up with me, and he wasn't going to tell me, but he told me Tuesday morning. My birthday was on a Wednesday. He told me Tuesday morning. He said he needed to talk to me, but I was busy. So I was like, oh, we can talk later. We talked on the phone often. So, oh, by the way, I was always the one who wanted to talk on the phone. He never called me like out of his own will. Oh, that was so annoying. But yeah, so it was really normal. I didn't think anything of it. And so he's like, towards the end of the night, he's like, oh no, never mind. There's nothing, like, we're good, babe. Everything's okay. Love you. And I was like, no, like, tell me. Like, I'm a nosy ass. I want to know what he wanted to tell me,
if that's your like partner, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, and I was not expecting that, because we were having a really good day, and then out of nowhere he wrote me a whole ass book about how he doesn't want to be with me anymore. He can't take it anymore. I'm like so toxic.
Wait, this was through text, not even talking?
Yeah, this was through a text message.
Why did I always think that it was talking on the phone, which is still not good?
No, this was through text message.
And we were together for a year.
Yeah, literally broke up with me through text.
Jesus.
And we had just been together 2 days before. Wow. And we spent a whole weekend together.
And immature.
Yeah, so he broke up with me through text message. I texted my mom. I was crying, like begging for him to take me back. I honestly feel like in a part he did it because I kind of ruined like the week leading up to his birthday, because we got into a really big fight and almost broke up. So I feel like he like did it just to get back at me. But who knows? I guess we will never find out. But yeah, that is my little story about how I was the toxic one, because I didn't know how to handle my own emotions. I think I was going through a lot at the time, and I didn't know how to receive the love he was giving me. And I truly don't believe that he was giving me the love that I deserved. I think I was going through a lot, and he knew what my mental health was like at the time. And I'm not saying it was his responsibility to fix me. I was taking the steps to fix myself.
Yeah.
But as my partner, if I'm being honest with you about where I am mentally. Either you tell me that, you know, unfortunately, this isn't something you signed up for and I respect that. Or if you're going to tell me, which he did, babe, we're going to work on this together. You're never going to be alone. I'm here for you 100%. And then a week later say, dude, you're on your own. Like, that's something you got to figure out on your own. So
he just couldn't handle it.
He couldn't handle it. And so I learned a lot from that relationship. I grew a lot from it. I recognized that I was very toxic and I caused a lot of the fights that we had. And he probably looks back and thinks of me as the most toxic person in the world. I think I definitely am the villain in his story.
In his story, possibly. But you don't know that. And
no, I don't know that.
His story is subjective, and that doesn't mean that you were. You have to look at it from your own perspective. And you know what I got out of listening to that from you?
What?
Is that even though through all of that, you have changed, like, from before your relationship to after your relationship into a much more emotional and vulnerable, but in the best way possible, person.
Yes.
Whereas before that relationship, you kind of had a more tough exterior when I first met you. You were still great to talk to. You still gave great advice, but you were definitely not like how you are now, where you're able to self-reflect and admit when you're not feeling well.
Absolutely.
And I think that if you believe that things happen for a reason, I think that you had to go through that to be able to be that way. Because that's what got you into therapy. That's what got you to actually look at your own emotions, because you were faced with them right in the mirror. Exactly. You couldn't run from your emotions at that point.
Exactly.
And so I feel like, if anything, it was kind of a blessing in disguise.
I think it was unfortunate about how it turned out, because in the long run, he's a really nice guy. Like, as a person, I don't think he was a good boyfriend.
No.
I think he tried, but I think he was such a mama's boy, which is something I would love to talk about in the future, which is something, a big red flag, girls and gents. Do not date someone that's a mama's boy person. Don't do that. No.
Date someone who loves their mama, but isn't
attached to them.
Yeah.
Because I can't. I've only dated one mama's boy, and I was so scarred. I will never date a mama's boy again. No. So help me God. But no, I absolutely agree. I took a lot of the things that I learned in therapy, and to this day I apply it to my life and my relationships. I learned something a lot is saying, like, talking about we statements instead of I statements, or talking about I statements instead of you statements. So instead of saying, I think you need to do this, say, I think we should work on this, or we should focus on this, or we should think about doing this before that.
Right.
Which is something that I started implementing, and I noticed that our relationship was getting a little bit better when I was saying we, because I was the type of person that would say, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, you're like doing this. I would put the blame on him for everything.
Right.
And nowadays I'm more comfortable talking about my emotions to an extent. And I'm a lot more vulnerable. I'm not afraid to seek help if I need it. Whereas before I was emotions, don't know her, don't know what to do with that.
I think also, while it's great that you were able to face your emotions, and this kind of brought your awareness to your insecurities that you have and things that you're going through, I think it's really hard in a relationship when you're the only one doing that. And the other person isn't also looking at their own insecurities and their own emotions, and they're not trying to grow with you. I think that while it's important to learn how to be there for yourself, not allow anyone else to be the thing that makes you whole. I also think that when you're in a relationship with someone and you have a connection with someone, it's inevitable for things for both of you to come up.
Yes.
And so either when you're in a relationship with someone, you're taking the whole of them.
Exactly. You're not,
or at least you should be.
Exactly. You can't pick and choose the parts of someone that you want to be with and the things that you don't. And I think, I'm not saying that you as a person, you shouldn't have to tell them every single deep, dark secret that you have, but at least be comfortable enough to tell them, if you truly are thinking that this person may be in for a relationship with you, and you want to form a romantic relationship with this person, you should be comfortable enough to tell them, like, hey, like, sometimes I have good days, sometimes I have bad days, and those bad days are a struggle for me. And I'm working on it. But, you know, I just want to tell you, kind of like warning them in a way, because the last thing you want is for someone to tell you, like, well, I didn't sign up for this.
Right.
And which is something that he would like imply to me all the time. It's like, well, you weren't like this, or I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help you. Like, I don't, like, I'm not a therapist. I like can't help you.
But then it's like, yes, like that person needs to like be there for you, and like you should be with someone who can help you and you feel comfortable talking about these things with. And as I said before, like you're taking the whole of that person.
Yeah.
But you also have to see like, where do I draw the line of I'm taking the whole of this person, but at the same time they're hurting me in the process, and they're like, what if they're recognizing, like Cheese Puff, for instance, like they're recognizing their faults, but they're still falling into the same patterns and not doing anything about it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's something that Glasses noticed on my end, is that I recognized I was hurting him and I was hurting our relationship, but I kept doing it. I tried really hard not to do it, but I'm not perfect. And as much as I tried, there were things that I would still fall into it, because I didn't know what therapy was, mental health, dealing with emotions. All of that was new to me.
Yeah.
So I was really starting from square negative 100, you know, so I had to work my way there, which now I can say confidently that, you know, if something traumatic comes my way, like I'm good. Like, I mean, not really, but I know how to handle it to an extent. But I wasn't like that before. So I think, kind of like you said, you were able to recognize with Cheese Puff that he was hurting you, and no matter how much you liked him, he wasn't doing anything to help himself, even after people told him that he should.
Or he would start to and then just fall back into his same ways.
Yeah. And that's something that I guess, I mean, I'm just trying to think about in his shoes, in Glass's shoes, is like, maybe I was doing the same, and he finally got the courage when I kept insisting on, oh, like, well, just tell me. And I wasn't even insisting in a bad way. I was just doing it like in a nosy way, like, oh no, like just tell me, like, what do you want to say? And that's when I think he saw his opportunity, and he's like, I'm just going to take it.
But I feel like also you were saying before that you kept doing this, even though you recognized what you were doing to him, or like you recognized your jealousy, whatever it was.
Yeah.
You recognized your jealousy, and even though you kept doing it, like you were still trying to grow. And I think it's hard not to fall into the same patterns like you did. Like, how do you not fall into the same patterns when you're growing and changing, and this other person isn't growing and changing?
Yeah.
Because if this other person isn't changing, then like, how do you expect you to change the relationship?
Exactly.
Like, both people have to change the relationship. It can't just be one.
Yeah, that's true. And also something that I just thought of, it's like, it was probably hard for me to keep growing as a person and not doing that when I was still in the same situation, in the same place, facing the same environment with the, I guess you can say, the triggers that I had in my own personal insecure, which I was so insecure. And I know a lot of that stems from those insecurities that I had. And I'm not excusing it at all, but it just goes to show how having those insecurities on your own and not learning how to deal with them can really manifest and make you crazy. Yep. I would wake up at 5 a.m, like towards the very end of a relationship. I would sleep like very little because I would go to sleep late, like tormenting myself about like, oh, when they hang out, what do they do? Like, damn, why would he do that? I would have dreams of him like cheating on me with her, and I would wake up crying. That's so bad. Yeah. That's so and like unhealthy. I couldn't tell him that because he would always just either turn it on me and say that I'm the crazy one and I'm overreacting and I'm over dramatic, or that he's a bad boyfriend, and then I would have to console him.
But it's like, I feel like you look back and you're like, it could be so simple if he simply just like consoled you and was like, don't worry, babe, like you have nothing to worry about. Yeah. I'm sorry that you're feeling that way. Here's what happened. Instead of trying to be on the defense.
Exactly. I think,
like, I feel like it could have been so simple, but
yeah. And I would communicate that with him about like, right now what I need is like clear communication from you. And there was a point where I did, in my mind, I wanted to make him choose me or her, but I knew that that was just a level of toxicity that I didn't want to reach, although I reached it in many other ways.
Yeah.
But for some reason, that one was the line for me. But the fact that I even got there, that I got to the point where I said it's me or her, like I shouldn't have to feel like I need to supervise who my partner is hanging out with and who to talk to, because at the end of the day, they're only going to resent me for it, you know?
And you should also be like, if this is the right person for me, then they would meet my needs. And this isn't something that I should be losing sleep over. Like literally losing sleep.
Literally losing sleep. Yeah, I was distraught when we broke up. But, you know, at the end of the day, there was so many things that I learned from that relationship. And it was unfortunate that it happened the way it did. Mm-hmm. But I look back and I just take what I learned and I try to be a better person from that.
Yeah.
There's still some toxic things in me. I am still sometimes a jealous, but overall it's gotten to a point that it's like, I'm really good at communicating now. Like,
oh yeah.
I'm like a very logical thinking person. I articulate pretty well when it comes to speaking about my feelings and talking to my partner, because when I know what I want and when I know what I want to say, I'll just say it.
Good.
But that came with not knowing how to speak up for myself, whether in a relationship or in an entanglement.
And it took that relationship for you to learn that.
Yeah, it actually took that relationship and my entanglement for me to learn.
Your last entanglement.
My last entanglement. Yeah. Much appreciation to him. Wish him really well. I think he has a girlfriend now. But yeah, I think we had a pretty great conversation.
I feel good about it.
I think the outcome of our psychoanalyzation is that, you know, just because someone's toxic with you or you're toxic to someone else, if you're able to recognize that there's toxic traits within each other and in that relationship, it's best to just let it go if like they refuse to make it work. And you should put yourself first, regardless if you are being the toxic one or being the one that someone's being toxic to you. You have to put yourself and your well-being first, and you have to be open to looking at yourself in the mirror and truly seeing what you're doing to other people and what you're doing to yourself.
Yeah. Preach. I love that.
Yes.
That's such a good thing to say and to leave off with. I also feel like I want to include that if you're going through something that's physically abusive, like
disregard what we're saying, because this is nothing like
it's exactly like this doesn't have to do with anything that's like abusive, like physically abusive,
or even like mentally or
emotionally abusive.
There's a difference between being toxic and being abusive.
Exactly.
Being toxic does not equate abusive, in my opinion, sometimes, but abusive is being toxic.
Yes, I think I know what you mean.
Yeah. So like
you don't have to be abusive to be toxic, but no matter what, abusive is toxic. Yeah.
Yes.
And so I also want to say that like if you're going through abuse, that you it's important to like have people that you feel safe with and comfortable with to talk about these kinds of things. And you know, I wonder if we should add like services that people can reach out to.
I think we can post if you follow Day Chats on Instagram, I will post a picture of Sarah and I, and underneath there we'll have a little bio of what the episode was about. But at the very bottom we'll have numbers that you can dial or places that you can go if you are struggling or going through domestic violence. We definitely don't condone that, and that's not something that you should submit yourself to. Even one time is too many times, and remember, love should not hurt.
Well said. Very well said.
So thank you all so much for listening to this somewhat chaotic episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys can relate to being in toxic relationships, whether you were the toxic one or someone was toxic with you, please, please, please give this episode a big thumbs up wherever you're listening, and go follow the Instagram Day Chats and write in your story. I would love to hear what your experience is like with a toxic relationship, whether it's one like Sarah's where you're going back and forth, or it's one that literally dumps you on a very special day like mine.
Yeah, I'm so glad I got to be a part of this.
I know. Thank you so much for being here, and that you follow the Instagram Day Chats. That's DAY, like in daytime, chats, CHATS. Thank you, everyone.